Harley-Davidson blames this shift on rising costs from new tariff. The motorcycle maker reports it will not raise prices on its bikes.
The rumble of a Harley-Davidson engine has always been more than just a sound. It's a statement, a legacy, a badge of identity worn proudly by those drawn to the open road and the freedom it represents. But even legends hit roadblocks. While Harley-Davidson remains one of the most iconic motorcycle brands in the world, not every model to roll off the assembly line captures the hearts or wallets of riders. In 2025, dealerships across the country are urgently trying to offload certain models that haven't resonated as expected. Some were plagued by poor sales, others by outdated designs, and a few simply didn't fit the modern rider's evolving tastes. These 10 models are now clogging up showrooms, taking up space, and dragging down inventories, prompting dealerships to offer heavy discounts and incentives in a desperate attempt to clear them out. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. At the top of the clearance list is the Harley-Davidson Street 750. Once launched with the aim of attracting younger urban riders, the Street 750 was supposed to be Harley's gateway drug, a lighter, more affordable ride for a new generation. Instead, it struggled to find a consistent audience. Purists criticized it for being too far removed from the brand's classic aesthetic, while newer riders often gravitated toward more modern competitors like Yamaha's MT-07 or Kawasaki's Z650. Despite its low price and manageable size, the Street 750 never became the sales juggernaut Harley hoped it would. Now dealerships are practically begging customers to take them off their hands, often offering thousands below MSRP just to move the units. Another model seeing aggressive price cuts is the Harley-Davidson Street Rod. It was built to be a sportier evolution of the Street 750, featuring sharper handling and more aggressive styling. Unfortunately, it ended up trapped in a strange purgatory. It lacked the raw performance of true sport bikes and failed to deliver the classic cruiser feel Harley fans crave. For many buyers, it seemed to be a motorcycle with an identity crisis, unsure of what it was supposed to be. Sales lagged behind projections, and now these bikes sit idle on showroom floors with bold clearance tags hanging from their handlebars. The Iron 1200 has also found itself on the chopping block. Initially welcomed as a brawnier version of the Iron 883, it combined vintage styling with the more powerful Evolution 1200 engine. For a while, it carved a niche for riders who wanted more muscle without stepping up to a full-fledged softail. But as Harley's new models have focused more on comfort, technology, and refinement, the Iron 1200 has started to feel rough around the edges. Its air-cooled engine and minimalist setup now come off as dated rather than retro chic. While it still has a cult following, dealerships are seeing a steep decline in interest, especially as newer mid-range models offer better performance and ride comfort at similar prices. One of the more surprising entries on the dealership discount list is the Fat Boy 114. Made famous by its iconic appearance in films like Terminator 2, the Fat Boy has long been a symbol of Harley-Davidson's larger-than-life design philosophy. But the very characteristics that once made it a fan favorite are now working against it. Its wide stance, heavy weight, and flashy styling don't quite match up with the leaner, more versatile bikes preferred by today's riders. Even seasoned Harley enthusiasts are turning their attention toward more modern softails or touring bikes that balance style with long-distance capability. The Fat Boy 114, despite its powerful Milwaukee 8 engine and undeniable presence, is now sitting unsold in many showrooms, prompting dealers to slash prices and offer generous financing packages to drum up interest. The Breakout 114, another Softail family member, is facing a similar fate. Designed to be a long, low, and visually striking cruiser, the Breakout was meant to turn heads wherever it went. And while it certainly delivers on aesthetics, with its massive rear tire and aggressive rake, it falls short in the usability department. It's not the most comfortable for long rides, and its handling suffers due to its stretched design. For riders who prioritize substance over style, the Breakout simply doesn't make the cut. Dealerships, aware of its showroom appeal but poor turnover rate, are marking it down steeply in hopes of finding it a new home before the next model year arrives. The Sport Glide, a hybrid between a cruiser and a touring bike, promised versatility and style. Unfortunately, it never fully clicked with the audience it was intended for. It's neither as nimble as dedicated cruisers, nor as fully equipped as true tourers. While the detachable fairing and saddlebags were clever additions, the overall execution left some riders feeling like they were compromising too much on both sides. With sales tapering off and newer, more refined touring cruiser hybrids entering the market, dealers are looking to dump remaining units at significant markdowns, hoping to recoup losses and clear space for better-selling models. Then there's the Harley-Davidson 48, a model with arguably one of the best visual designs in the brand's lineup. The low stance, fat front tire, and peanut tank make it instantly recognizable. But beauty only goes so far. The 48 suffers from a punishing ride due to its limited suspension travel and cramped ergonomics. As younger riders seek out daily rideable bikes with more tech features and comfort, the 48 feels like more of a weekend toy than a practical purchase. Despite its photogenic appeal, its sales have taken a nosedive, and many dealers are ready to part with them at steep discounts. Another model failing to find traction is the Roadster, Harley's attempt to tap into the cafe racer and roadster segments with a sportier Sportster. It had promise, mid-controls, a performance-focused suspension setup, and a more aggressive posture. But it was still heavy by roadster standards and lacked the performance numbers to compete with European or Japanese alternatives. Enthusiasts who wanted corner-carving machines looked elsewhere, while traditional Harley fans remained loyal to cruisers. As a result, Roadsters have gathered dust in showrooms, and many dealerships are offering deep incentives to clear out their remaining stock. The Softail Slim, once praised for its blend of old-school style and modern engineering, is also on the clearance list. While its design cues, from the bobber-style fenders to the wire-spoke wheels, appealed to a certain nostalgic demographic, the Slim doesn't offer enough differentiation from other Softails to justify its place in the lineup. It's a competent bike, but it lacks a compelling hook. Without standout performance or innovative features, it has become overshadowed by newer offerings in the Softail family. As inventory piles up, dealers are eager to slash prices and push Slims out the door before the next wave of releases. Even the once-beloved Heritage Classic 114 isn't immune to the push for clearance. This model aimed to marry vintage style with touring functionality, offering saddlebags, a windshield, and a bigger engine for longer hauls. Yet it straddles an awkward middle ground. It doesn't have the comfort or tech of Harley's full-dress touring bikes, nor the sleekness and price point appeal of stripped-down cruisers. In an era where riders are increasingly data-driven, comparing horsepower, GPS features, ride modes, and connectivity, the Heritage Classic 114 feels a little stuck in time. As the competition tightens, dealerships are resorting to heavy discounts and bundling incentives to make these bikes move. Across the board, what ties these 10 models together is not necessarily poor engineering or lackluster design. In fact, each one had a specific vision, a niche it intended to fill. But the motorcycle market is changing. Younger riders want connected tech, better value, and daily usability. Older riders are transitioning to lighter, more manageable bikes or are exiting the scene altogether. Harley-Davidson, while still a titan in the industry, is facing the pressure to evolve or be edged out by brands that are quicker to adapt. For dealerships, these 10 models have become cautionary tales. They remind us that even a legacy brand can misread the market, and even iconic names can fail to spark excitement. Showroom floors need space for the next generation of motorcycles. Those that integrate modern design, user-friendly features, and versatile performance. Until then, buyers savvy enough to spot the deals can walk into a dealership today and walk out with a heavily discounted Harley. It may not be the latest or most buzzworthy model, but for those who still love the brand's raw charisma, these bikes offer a unique opportunity, the chance to own a piece of Harley history at a fraction of the cost. There's a silver lining in all this. Harley-Davidson's recognition of these stumbles means changes are coming. The brand has already hinted at new models aimed at adventure touring, electric platforms, and international markets. The Pan America, for example, has been a rare recent success, tapping into the adventure bike market with surprising effectiveness. Similarly, Harley's renewed focus on modular platforms and global scalability indicates that lessons are being learned. In the meantime, dealerships are in a hurry to empty their back rooms, make room on the floor, and reset expectations. For consumers, especially those who aren't fixated on having the newest release, This represents a window of opportunity. Whether it's picking up a fire sale Fat Boy or a deeply discounted LiveWire, the deals are very real and may not last much longer. As the new model year approaches and Harley repositions itself for the future, these 10 motorcycles might become rarities, relics of a transitional phase in one of America's most storied brands. The movement inside Harley-Davidson dealerships over the past year has been frantic, calculated, and at times desperate. Not because business is collapsing, but because the landscape is changing faster than some of their bikes can keep up. As showroom floors remain cluttered with models that aren't moving, dealerships are becoming more aggressive in their sales tactics. There's a palpable urgency now to reset the brand's trajectory. In the push to dump underperforming models, strategies have shifted from traditional Harley charm to straight-up hard selling. And this effort to push out lingering inventory is telling of something much larger. Harley-Davidson is in the middle of an identity shift. It's not just about which bikes aren't selling, it's about what these sales trends say about Harley's relevance in 2025. Many of the models now gathering dust were developed during a time when Harley was trying to hold fast to the past while tentatively reaching toward the future. The problem is, hedging bets doesn't work when the market wants clear decisions. Take a walk into a dealership today, and you'll see more than just rows of unsold bikes. You'll see the remnants of an outdated strategy that couldn't reconcile the clash between heritage and innovation. The process of dumping these models isn't as simple as slapping a discount tag on them. Dealerships are throwing in service packages, extended warranties, and even custom accessories to sweeten the deal. Some are offering zero-interest financing, trade-in bonuses, or multi-bike bundle deals just to clear the backlog. They're even partnering with local rider groups, sponsoring meetups, and offering test rides with incentives attached. It's a full-court press, and in many cases it's not about profit anymore. It's about damage control and salvaging future opportunity. What's fascinating is how these efforts are reshaping customer perceptions. There's a growing segment of riders who now see Harley-Davidson as more accessible, more negotiable, and less intimidating than before. For years, part of Harley's brand was its exclusivity. It's if you know culture. But the fire sale environment has eroded some of that mystique. Riders who previously thought of Harley ownership as an aspirational goal are now being ushered in by the lure of unprecedented deals. While this lowers the barrier to entry, it also dilutes the premium aura that Harley has carefully crafted over decades. This is especially significant considering the cultural footprint Harley-Davidson occupies. It's not just a motorcycle company. It's a lifestyle brand with decades of legacy baked into its chrome and steel. When dealerships are forced to aggressively offload models, it impacts more than just sales figures. It affects brand perception. Consumers start to ask questions. If these bikes are so discounted, were they ever really worth their original price tags? Is Harley just living off nostalgia? These are the quiet undercurrents affecting customer confidence, and Harley is very much aware of it. Interestingly, the models being discounted most heavily tend to fall into one of two categories: those that strayed too far from Harley's traditional DNA, and those that clung too tightly to it. The former includes bikes like the Street Rod and the LiveWire, models that tried to break the mold but lacked the broader support or identity to succeed. The latter, like the 48 or Fat Boy, remained steadfast in style, but didn't evolve in features or ergonomics to remain competitive. Caught between innovation and tradition, Harley ended up with a fragmented lineup that confused rather than captivated. This tension is being felt most by the dealerships themselves. Unlike the corporate headquarters in Milwaukee, dealers are the ones on the front lines, managing frustrated customers, explaining steep price drops to confused recent buyers, and watching inventory metrics grow increasingly bleak. Some dealerships are even pivoting their showroom strategies, emphasizing used bikes and aftermarket customization over pushing new models. It's a quiet shift, but one that underscores a loss of confidence in certain corners of Harley's new bike lineup. There's also the issue of the used market, which is being heavily impacted by the glut of these unsold models. As dealerships lower prices on brand new motorcycles, it drags down the value of used ones. Owners trying to sell or trade their recent purchases are discovering that their bikes have depreciated at an alarming rate. This not only frustrates customers but also discourages future purchases. If you bought a new Breakout 114 last year for full MSRP and now see it on sale for thousands less, your faith in the brand and your willingness to reinvest inevitably suffers. Yet this crisis of confidence has an interesting side effect. It's pushing Harley to adapt faster than ever before. The company's new leadership understands that a brand refresh isn't optional anymore. It's essential. While dealers focus on unloading the current deadweight, Harley's design and development teams are zeroing in on creating machines that reflect the tastes of today's riders. Lighter, smarter, more connected. The Pan America, hailed for its innovation and real-world performance, is just the beginning of what Harley hopes will be a new era. Still, there's no sugarcoating the fact that dumping these 10 models is a painful but necessary chapter. What makes it even more compelling is that this isn't a failure of engineering or craftsmanship. These are beautifully built bikes. But the motorcycle market doesn't reward heritage alone anymore. It demands agility, responsiveness, and above all, understanding the rider's evolving priorities. The success of brands like Triumph, Ducati, and even Indian Motorcycle has shown that blending heritage with modernity is possible. It just requires a bolder commitment than Harley has shown until recently. The dealerships that are weathering this storm the best are those embracing transparency. Some have begun posting why it's discounted tags next to certain bikes, giving honest explanations about model phase-outs, changing rider preferences, or upcoming replacements. This openness builds trust with potential buyers and positions the dealership not as a desperate seller but as a helpful guide. In contrast, dealerships that stick to vague sales pitches or pretend everything is business as usual tend to struggle more with moving units. Another important factor is the rise of non-traditional riders entering the market. These include younger urban professionals, women, and diverse riders who are discovering motorcycling as a new form of self-expression or practicality. Unfortunately, many of the bikes being cleared out weren't designed with these demographics in mind. Their ergonomics, weight, or styling appeal to a narrower audience. As Harley makes room for future models, there's a growing push to build motorcycles that are more inclusive, not just in marketing, but in physical design and price point. In the midst of all this clearance activity, another subtle shift is occurring. The customization culture around Harley-Davidson is gaining new momentum. Riders who might not have been able to afford a brand new Softail last year are now picking up discounted models and investing their savings in aftermarket upgrades. This revival of Harley's builder spirit is injecting new life into older models and creating a fresh wave of creativity. Some dealerships have even leaned into this trend, offering in-house custom packages or working with local garages to showcase modified versions of slow-moving stock. There's also an international angle worth considering. Several of the models being dumped in the US market are being quietly redirected to international dealerships where demand is stronger. Countries in Southeast Asia, South America, and parts of Europe still view Harley as an aspirational brand. And these discounted models can sometimes fetch higher margins overseas even after shipping. While this strategy doesn't solve Harley's core identity issues, it does help cushion the blow and reduce domestic inventory pressure. Looking forward, Harley-Davidson's roadmap will likely feature a leaner, more focused lineup. Expect more modular platforms that can be adapted for multiple models, cutting development costs and reducing the risk of introducing a flop. Electric motorcycles will continue to be a long-term investment, but the brand will likely tread more carefully, making sure price points and rider experiences are aligned with expectations. Technology integration, once an afterthought, will become a standard. Riders now want Bluetooth, smart displays, adaptive cruise control, and ride modes. It's no longer a luxury feature, it's a baseline requirement. As for the dealerships still dealing with pallets of unclaimed stock, the final phase of this clearance push will likely involve major buyback programs, dealer-to-dealer transfers, and even liquidation to third-party sellers. Some may find their way into rental fleets or training schools, where the pressure of performance reviews is less intense. Others may become collector's items in a few years, not because they were loved, but because they represent a pivotal turning point in Harley-Davidson's story. The community response to this shift has been mixed. Loyalists remain optimistic, believing that Harley will find its footing and re-emerge stronger. Others, especially younger enthusiasts, are watching with cautious interest, hoping for evidence that Harley's future offerings will speak to them directly. The one thing no one can deny is that change is here, and it's moving fast. For the first time in decades, Harley-Davidson can't simply rely on its name to sell motorcycles. It has to earn attention, excitement, and trust all over again. Meanwhile, for buyers in the know, this is arguably one of the best times in recent history to snag a Harley at a massive discount. Models that were once financially out of reach are now priced competitively with mid-tier offerings from rival brands. For some, the opportunity to own a piece of Harley iron, even if it's not the latest and greatest, is too good to pass up. Others might see this as a chance to buy low, enjoy the ride, and flip the bike later for a tidy profit when these discontinued models gain cult status. One thing is clear: Harley-Davidson isn't backing down from the fight. The pressure of this model purge, while painful in the short term, may be exactly what the brand needed to shake off complacency. From here, Harley can rebuild not just its lineup, but its relationship with a new generation of riders ready for something bold, different, and undeniably Harley. Would you like a visual breakdown of these models or pricing trends from recent dealership data? There's a unique kind of tension hanging in the air at Harley-Davidson dealerships right now. Walk into one and you'll find it. The subtle quiet of too many unsold bikes gleaming under showroom lights, the sideways glances of sales staff scanning for potential buyers, and the muted hum of a brand caught between reinvention and retreat. The 10 models being urgently pushed out the door aren't just a case of overstock. They are emblematic of a misalignment between what Harley-Davidson has been offering and what the modern rider is actually looking for. Each motorcycle that dealers are now desperate to move tells a slightly different story. Behind every price cut and incentive is a trail of design meetings, marketing strategies, and supply chain logistics that went awry. These are not bikes that were tossed together haphazardly. They were the result of calculated decisions, often years in the making. The disconnect isn't in effort, it's in direction. For Harley, the issue has been more about navigating a culture shift than a mechanical failure. The motorcycle world is evolving fast, and the traditional playbook is becoming less relevant by the day. Much of this change can be attributed to a generational pivot. Today's younger riders, many of whom came of age during the explosion of dual sport, adventure, and naked bikes, see motorcycles less as symbols of rebellion and more as tools of experience. They value function, technology, versatility, and affordability. The emphasis has moved away from attitude and more toward application. Where a Harley once stood as a declaration of identity, now riders want bikes that can adapt to weekend escapes, weekday commutes, and everything in between. Unfortunately, many of the models being dumped now were engineered with the old image-first philosophy in mind. Let's not forget the rise of digital influence in buying decisions. Modern motorcycle consumers are doing more research online than ever before. Detailed YouTube reviews, Reddit threads, comparison tests, and rider forums dominate the decision-making process. A bike that doesn't perform well in third-party tests, that lacks basic modern amenities, or that appears to be overpriced by online consensus, is dead on arrival. A Street 750, no matter how deeply discounted, is going to struggle if it's routinely described as underwhelming by the influencers and content creators that younger buyers trust. At the same time, competition has become fiercer. Brands like KTM, Yamaha, Honda, and BMW have doubled down on smart, value-packed machines across every category: sport, touring, adventure, even entry-level. The variety, price range, and features offered by these manufacturers often make Harley's aging, single-purpose models seem outdated. A budget-conscious rider in 2025 can find a technologically advanced, comfortable, and fuel-efficient motorcycle from a rival brand that not only undercuts Harley's pricing, but also delivers broader versatility. It's a brutal battlefield, and Harley's older playbook simply isn't competitive anymore in that context. One often overlooked aspect of this inventory crisis is the role of environmental and regulatory pressure. Governments across North America and Europe have tightened emissions standards, and fuel efficiency regulations are becoming stricter. Many of the models Harley is offloading now, especially those using older engine platforms, don't meet the newest emissions benchmarks without significant modification. While they can still be sold as long as they're in stock, dealerships are racing against the clock before stricter policies kick in and effectively render those units unsellable. This urgency explains why some models are being practically given away. Dealers would rather take a loss than get stuck with bikes they legally can't sell 6 months from now. Meanwhile, the riding habits of consumers have changed drastically in the last decade. The pandemic, while devastating in many respects, reignited a sense of adventure and solitude in riders. Many took to long-haul touring and backroad exploring rather than traditional bar hopping or urban cruising. In that shift, bikes like the LiveWire or the 48 simply don't serve the new narrative. Riders want larger fuel tanks, luggage options, wind protection, and comfortable two-up seating. Models that were designed to look good parked are now struggling to find homes among buyers who prioritize long-distance utility. Moreover, Harley's traditional demographic, middle-aged, male, often affluent, is aging out of the sport. Many are retiring their riding gear for good, and younger, more diverse riders are not entering the market at the rate needed to replace them. Worse yet, many of these newer riders don't relate to the old Harley ethos of rebellion and Americana. They're more interested in global mobility, sustainability, and personalization. And while Harley has taken steps toward appealing to them, the models currently clogging showroom floors were built before this shift was fully acknowledged. They're, in a sense, casualties of timing. This is also evident in Harley's accessory and gear sales, which have historically been one of the brand's strongest profit centers. With slower new bike sales, related revenue in apparel, helmets, and branded accessories has also dipped. After all, if you're not buying a new Harley, you're probably not springing for the Harley riding jacket, saddlebags, or logoed helmet either. Dealers are now bundling these items into the purchase package, giving them away with unsold bikes in order to add perceived value. But what was once an aspirational ecosystem now risks being seen as surplus inventory. Financing options, too, have become more creative, sometimes worryingly so. Some dealers are offering zero down, zero interest for 12 months, with deferred payments to encourage cash-strapped buyers to pull the trigger. These offers, while enticing, reveal a more concerning trend. Dealerships are stretching the limits of financing to move units, which could lead to long-term issues with loan defaults or early trade-in losses. Harley itself has historically been one of the few manufacturers with its own in-house finance arm, Harley-Davidson Financial Services. But even they are feeling the strain of maintaining lending volumes as bike values fluctuate wildly post-purchase. Interestingly, insurance premiums for these discontinued or soon-to-be discontinued models have also been affected. Since resale values are plummeting, and parts availability for niche models may shrink in the future, insurers are adjusting their risk assessments accordingly. That means in some cases, buyers are facing higher premiums for bikes that are technically worth less than a year ago. For a first-time buyer, this disconnect is both confusing and discouraging, adding yet another hurdle in an already complicated purchase process. There's a psychological dimension at play here too. Motorcycles, more than most vehicles, are emotional purchases. Riders don't just buy bikes for transportation, they buy them for what they represent. When a model is being dumped en masse, it loses its mystique. Nobody wants to ride the bike that symbolizes a failure. This can be seen most clearly with models like the Roadster or the Breakout 114. Despite their performance capabilities and aesthetic appeal, their reputations are damaged by their presence on dealer lots with deep markdowns. Riders begin to view them not as unique choices, but as leftovers. The problem is compounded when potential buyers realize that parts and support for these models may diminish over time. If Harley has no long-term plans for the platform, service departments may stop prioritizing them, and aftermarket support could dry up. This introduces uncertainty, especially for owners who plan to keep their bikes long-term. Riders who value easy access to parts and a robust online community are naturally hesitant to invest in a model that seems to be fading out. Fleet sales have also become an avenue of last resort for some dealerships. Law enforcement, motorcycle training schools, and rental fleets are now being offered bulk purchase deals for certain models. These contracts typically come with stripped-down versions of the bikes, no chrome, no frills, but they help reduce inventory pressure. Still, it's a far cry from the brand image Harley usually likes to project. When your showroom bikes are being repurposed for police use or training rides, it becomes more difficult to market them as aspirational dream machines. Then there's the resale issue. Buyers who pick up one of these discounted models often find themselves underwater on the value as soon as they leave the dealership. This makes it incredibly difficult to trade in or upgrade later. Some dealers are already seeing trade-in offers on models that were sold just months earlier at full price, now returning with a third of their value wiped out. It's causing frustration among customers and forcing dealerships to further devalue used inventory just to remain competitive. As all this unfolds, there's an eerie parallel forming between Harley-Davidson today and other legacy brands in different industries that failed to adapt quickly enough. Think of Kodak, Blockbuster, or even Pontiac. Brands that once dominated their categories but struggled when digital disruption or cultural change arrived. The same fate doesn't have to befall Harley, but the signs of trouble are clear. Overdependence on outdated products, slow innovation cycles, and an identity crisis about who their modern customer really is. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us. What are your thoughts on dealerships dumping these Harley models? Which model will sell fastest? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.